Hurricane season set to batter America's insurance market, which is already in crisis. Since 2020, insurers in Louisiana paid or reserved $24.5 billion in claims for tropical storms. That bankrupted 9 insurers, pushed at least a dozen out of the Louisiana market. As a result, tens of thousands of uninsured homeowners were forced onto Citizens, the state-sponsored insurer of last resort, which has seen its policyholders quadruple since 2021. Last year, Citizens increased rates by more than 60%, inducing what our next guest says is the worst homeowners insurance market since Katrina. Joining us right now on how the state is wooing private insurers back to Louisiana is Jim Donelon, Louisiana Commissioner of Insurance. Good morning to you. It's a serious issue, and there's a real question, Commissioner, about how you actually get the insurers back into the state and what you have to do to induce them back.
And we're doing what we did post-Katrina that really worked very well for us with an incentive program. At that time, we offered $100 million in incentive grants from our surplus that we were experiencing yet again in the aftermath of the rebuild, paid for by all of those hurricane claims. $1 billion for $26 billion after Katrina and Rita, $800,000 this time for primarily Laura in the southwest corner, Ida in the southeast corner of our state. With that money, the legislature and the governor have made available some now $55 million to offer grants to small regional companies that can replace and supplement the major national carriers who have been exiting coastal exposure, not only in our state, but from Massachusetts to Miami and around to Mexico ever since Katrina. And that continues on a national basis. We have been more successful, I dare say, up until now than any other coastal state in replacing those exiting major national carriers with small regional companies reinsured up to their chin by the international reinsurance marketplace. And that resulted in 5 years prior to Laura, our homeowners market increasing only 1% per year for each of those 5 years for premiums for homeowners. So we're using that same model. We've distributed now $42 million to 8 small regional companies that are writing aggressively now across coastal Louisiana. And we hope and expect that that will continue to address this ongoing crisis.
This is a larger issue than just Louisiana, as you just stated. So many of the big companies leaving coastal cities and states. What do you see as the biggest challenge, and can this be a profitable business for these smaller insurers that you're talking about?
It really can. We lost 3 that were domiciled in our state. We lost it because of Hurricane Ida, the second of those 2 hurricanes. The first go-round with Laura, they were fine, had enough reinsurance, didn't have an overexposure in the southwest corner, but did not adequately reinsure themselves for the Laura hit that was really concentrated in the New Orleans area and to the west of New Orleans. With that overexposure, they failed. But more than the failures in our state, we had companies we had attracted from the Florida market because of the long-time crisis they had there, a man-made crisis, as it's called, around litigation surrounding homeowners companies in the state of Florida. Those companies came to us, to South Carolina, Texas, and other coastal states to do business because they couldn't profitably do it in Florida.
Right.
And that crisis caused 5 of those companies doing business in our state, insuring my home here in suburban New Orleans, to fail. At the same time, we were being hit by those hurricanes.
Commissioner, what are the premiums like? Because that's the other issue. Talk about affordability or unaffordability, given where you live.
Our premiums are always in the top 3 or 4, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, and to the surprise of many, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, not because of hurricanes and not even really the cost of tornadoes. It's the cost of hail that comes often with tornadoes and covers whole counties at a time. But we are right in the center of the cost of homeowners insurance in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, and Oklahoma.
Commissioner, you talked about the man-made problems in Florida. There's a real question, I think, question mark, as to how much you think climate change has effectively created some of the problems that your state and so many other states are confronting. We've debated this issue with everybody from Warren Buffett to so many others. Where do you stand on that?
I recognize the fact that I've lived in New Orleans my entire life. I lived through Hurricane Camille on the Gulf Coast back in the 60s. Betsy, earlier than Camille, started the National Flood Insurance Program. But the one that had set our record before Katrina was Hurricane Andrew in 1992 that cost insurers for damage in our state $500 million. Katrina beat that 50 times. And 3 weeks later, Rita hit the southwest part of our state and added $3.3 billion more. And now we're hit by Laura, 150-mile-an-hour winds when it made landfall in Lake Charles, and 13 months later, Ida with 150-mile-an-hour winds. Katrina and Rita were 115-mile-an-hour winds. So there's no denying that hurricanes are much more often hitting our state and much more powerful when they do visit Louisiana. I'm not a denier, and I am certainly on the side of those who say we have to build higher and stronger in order to live and do what our state is dependent on in coastal county parishes, as we call them, in Louisiana.